Evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Solo ReacTalk. This evening, I'm going to be reacting to a video requested by multiple people. Yes, I am here. The greatest Primarch in 40k, entire character history, voice acted, lore on the Amber King YouTube channel. Lion L. Johnson, the Lion, voice acted by Sean Michael Morneau. Yes. If you guys want to check out my reaction to the Amber King's Warhammer 40k content, remember that the Warhammer 40k content created by YouTubers playlist, reaction playlist, this card is going to be at the top here. Just click on it and be able to access them. If you want to check out the original video as well as the Amber King's YouTube channel, the links are going to be in the description below. There are about 3 videos centered around Lion L. Johnson on the Amber King's YouTube channel. This is the first video, I think, right? Hopefully I'm correct about that. Yeah, this is the first video, and the other 2 videos I'll be reacting to them on a later date. So, just keep an eye out for those other 2. And this lesion, first I want to say that it's good to hear that, or should I say, it's good to see that Sean Michael Morneau is back. Voice acting, probably, the Primarch of... He's the Primarch of the First Legion, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. The last time I heard Sean was... Constantine Valdor. Yes, that was the last time I heard from Sean Michael Morneau. So it's good to see that he's back here for this one. And yes, this Primarch, I don't know much about him. Really, honestly, he's Legion and Lion L. Johnson. I don't know much about them. Especially like during the Heresy, we got to hear about all these other major players during that conflict. But the First Legion and Lion L. Johnson, they weren't really there. They were there, but they just weren't in the center of it all. When you think about Sanguinius, when you think about Magnus, when you think about Perturabo, when you think about Angron, when you think about Jakatai Khan, Matarian, when you think about who else? Like, there's so many other Primarchs. So many other Primarchs. And of course, Horus himself and the different legions as well. The First Legion and Lion L. Johnson are not really on my radar, if I can say that. I know he's back. This Primarch is back after, or should I say, during the 41st millennium, he has returned. And I know that the First Legion also contributed or assisted the custodians in taking down the Thunder Warriors, right? I know that they don't have a homeworld. Their homeworld was destroyed, I think, during the Heresy or after the Horus Heresy. I'm not entirely sure when did it happen, but I know that there was a betrayal within the Legion, and it also caused the destruction of their homeworld. Yeah, I don't really know much about Lion L. Johnson and the First Legion. I know that they're called the Dark Angels, and that's as far as I get. So yeah, let's see what the Amber King has to say about this Legion and their contributions to the Imperium of Man, and of course the Primarch Lion L. Johnson. Alright. Wait, did I say that you can check? Yes, I did. Yes. Okay. No. Okay, let's start. Sorry. 3, 2, 1, go. hold on. Okay, part 1, Knight of Caliban. Okay.
Once, a lifetime ago it seems, I declared a great crusade to clear the forests of Caliban of the beasts, and that was a worthy aim.
I like his helmet with the wings on the side like that. Yeah, that's a nice helmet. And I have also seen some other First Legion Astartes having the same sort of helmet. Yeah, it's cool, really. It sets them apart from everybody else, I think. Yeah, it's cool.
I see now that I was merely emulating a greater man's dream, that of my father, the Emperor. You have all been chosen to become part of the greatest warrior order the galaxy has ever seen. You will be stronger, faster, and more deadly than ever before. You will fight in wars beyond counting, and you will kill the enemies of mankind on worlds far distant from our beloved home of Caliban. But we will do these things willingly, for we are men of honor and courage, men who know what it is to have a duty that transcends personal concerns. Each of you was once a knight, a warrior, and a hero. But now you are far more than that. From this day forth, you will forget your past life. From this day forth, you are a warrior of the Legion. Nothing else is of consequence. The Legion is all that matters. We are the First Legion, the honored, the sons of the Lion. And we will not be marching to war without a name that strikes terror into the hearts of our enemies. As our legends spoke of the great heroes who held back the monsters of our distant past, so too shall we hold back the enemies of the Imperium as we set off into the great void to fight in the name of the Emperor. We shall be the Dark Angels.
Lion L. Johnson.
Hey, look who it is.
The first, the Lion, the son of the forest, the Dark Angel. It's a story that speaks of war, of duty, of shame, of secrets. A tale whose inspiration comes from our own history. Lionel Johnson was an English poet born in the 19th century. He was a contemporary of Oscar Wilde and most known for his famous work, The Dark Angel. And it's a poem that speaks of shame, of secrecy. It relates to Lionel's own life, where he lived in a time where perhaps who he was not allowed by law. And he speaks of this.
Who he was not allowed by law. Oh, okay.
Deep shame he feels within himself, and how he has to keep it from the powers that be. It was also rooted in his own belief system. He was a very strong believer in Catholicism, and he found that he could not reconcile his own identity within and also his belief in God. The poem itself, The Dark Angel, really speaks to his own inner turmoil with this journey and his identity and reconciling both of them together, but yet it also speaks of how he can find a path of redemption and acceptance as well within. It's something that follows the Dark Angel story very closely, even the Lion himself, who struggles with these same feelings of shame and regret that will follow him even into the modern timeline of Warhammer. The Dark Angels also take inspiration from the Watchers, or also known as the Grigori. This is from the Book of Enoch, and it speaks to how these lesser angels, these angels of God, which are assigned to be the Watchers, watching humanity, and they defy his will and end up marrying humans on Earth, which in a way they share information that humanity was never supposed to learn. And even in the Lion story, we find the theme of the Watchers in the dark, that take on an almost advisory role, but yet also feel the need to intervene and perhaps alter the will of the entire universe. But the Lion's story begins all the way in the 31st millennium. Humanity is scattered across the stars. We are separated and divided by history, and the previous fall during the Age of Strife. A child awakens to find himself in the depths of a near lightless forest. He knows nothing of his origins. He has no concept of what is before. He does not even know his own name. His environment would later be called a death world, as the forests of Caliban are filled with venomous plants and horrific mutated deadly beasts. Creatures that haunt the psyche of human nightmares. The child learns quickly to survive on his own. Many times he's attacked and has to fight and slay these creatures with his bare hands. He has to gather from the forest to learn which foods he can consume and which ones make him feel ill. His mind is turned into that of a hunter, as if he had become one of the beasts himself. He is always on alert. He never knows true rest, allowing himself only the luxury of small periods of sleep.
Man, it's like he landed on Kathachan or something, you know? So this entire world is a death world, filled with dangerous creatures, poisonous plants. The entire environment, the entire ecosystem is trying to kill you. And he was just dropped into this.
Clutching homemade weapons tight to his chest, preparing for another deadly attack that could come at any moment. He begins to grow as a disheveled creature, his hair long, his body covered in filth.
This is the real Tarzan. Oh gosh, yeah. This is the real Tarzan, not the Tarzan that we are seeing on our television sets, you know, who just looks like some dude who's a fashion model with a shiny body and stuff. No. This is the real Tarzan. This is the real Tarzan.
After a decade inside the deadly forests, he sees for the first time humans. His mind is puzzled. They look just like him. They are knights, men clad in metals, shining and brilliant amongst the forest light.
People cladded in armor in the forest? You know how humid and just how difficult it is to move around in heavy armor in a forest? No, man, that's not practical. Take off pieces of the armor, make it as light as possible, so that you don't sweat and that, you know, you're able to move, that you have movability. But maybe there is a point, really. I mean, this is a death world after all, so maybe the plants and the animals really can just eviscerate you, so you need all the protection given.
Armed and armored in rudimentary powered armor, they belong to the Order, the knightly group who hunt the beasts of Caliban. They are utterly shocked. They find this large boy within their midst, not even hearing him move. He had crept up upon them much like the beasts of Caliban. They begin to panic. How? Nothing can survive this deep into the forest. It must be a monster. One of the men draws his pistol.
Well, yeah, a Primarch really is a monster, though.
And laces shots towards the boy, hitting him in the shoulder. They are terrified. The boy can sense it. He can almost hear their hearts inside their chests pounding. Wounded, the boy darts to safety. And with a feral snarl, he looks at them dead in the eye, only for one of the men to step forward. Approaching cautiously, softly, this man finally sees that he is staring at a human. He wasn't going to attack, are you? Lion. The strange man names him. The knight's name was Luther. honourable, respected man, and a great knight of the Order, who despite his kind demeanour and his warm smile, is genuinely terrified of the boy. Feeling the hairs rise upon the back of his neck, he almost thinks him to be a deadly beast of this world, comparing him to the Calibanite lion, the most fearsome creature that stalks these dark forests. Luther would bring the boy back to the Order's fortress monastery of Alderuk, the mountain fortress that has served as a home to the Order for centuries. The boy is lost, confused, taken from a life of nature and placed within the confines of walls. But he is not alone, for the man Luther adopts the boy, and he names him Lion L. Johnson, the Lion, son of the forest. Luther, finding within his own tragic life the loss of his wife and young child, a replacement within this boy, something to fill the void within his own heart. He will be his son, and he will be his brother, and he will guide him in all the ways of the Order. He will give him everything he can, for even the man Luther can see that this enormous boy is special.
But that's an interesting relationship, father and brother, right? Yeah. Okay. Luther.
Surrounded by humans truly for the first time, the Lion finds that he is clearly not just an ordinary man. He is significantly taller, stronger, and smarter than even the most exceptional knights, such as Luther, and the rate of his growth is exceptional. His speed of learning is incredible. Even Luther can see the intelligence behind those deep emerald eyes. Even if the boy did not speak for his first year inside the walls of Alderuk, he was almost more of an observer, not quite able to shake out of that hunter mindset, never quite able to relax and feel he is in safety, never quite able to sleep. But even from his first day inside the walls of Alderuk, a blade was put in his hand as he began to train in the way of the knights, stepping through the spiral, the ancient training grounds, and the Order's martial combat doctrine, learning the ways of a duelist to a level beyond even mortal men. A day and night cycle of combat and study, until finally the Lion was ready to begin his first hunt. Back into the forest of Caliban the boy would journey, battling many of the types of horrifying monsters that lay deep within the shadows of the overcast trees, behind the venomous and poisonous vegetation, in rudimentary arms and armor, and long-maintained advanced technology. The Lion would be equipped. The world of Caliban itself, a mix of its old medieval traditions and the technology from a long-lost era, barely kept alive by dissipating knowledge. Each generation feeling more and more of that knowledge bleed away, from his auto pistol to his two-handed blade.
When I read Knight of Caliban, I was thinking that, this was a night world. A planet filled with the knights. I thought that's what this planet was, but now that we're hearing that it's a death world, Caliban, and this world is just filled with a lot of dangerous creatures, fauna and flora, and the knights are actually knights, not the knight machines that we know of. Knights with shining armor and swords. Yes, they do have some technology. That's what we're hearing from the Amber King, but it's not to the level of a knight. The knights I'm talking about, right? The knights I'm thinking about. I was thinking about those knights. Yeah, not knights. Okay, let's continue.
The Lion's equipment would be slick with blood as he began to purge the beasts of the forest. Hundreds, thousands of horrifying creatures fell to him as he began to ascend the ranks of the Order. his skill and his mind nurtured by legends such as Ramiel, Amadis, and his closest companion of all, Luther, and even the mysterious Lord Cypher, the knight who forgoes his own identity and inherits the Cypher title.
Oh, Cypher is a title, it's not a person. Okay. Yeah, I've heard of this Cypher fellow. I just thought it was someone called Cypher, but I didn't know it was actually a title given to someone. Okay, interesting.
Charged with keeping the secrets of the Order. The traditions of Caliban are born into him, poured into his growing mind. But yet there is one tradition the boy cannot reconcile. The endless war with the beasts. The cycle of unending death. The horror and fear the people of Caliban live every day, fearing that their young and pitiful lives are cut short, afraid to leave the warmth of their fire and walls. The people of Caliban have looked after him, they have nurtured him, and he wanted to protect them. The lion declares a crusade. He will purge all the beasts from the forest, communicating with some of the other knightly orders.
Of course, like any other Primarch, you land on the planet, you try to survive on the planet, the local inhabitants take you in, and then after a few years you start to formulate plans on either uniting the planet or conquering the planet, or protecting the planet, but that involves the other two. So yeah, he's doing what a Primarch is designed to do. Yeah.
Across the world of Caliban, the coordinated purge began, relying upon his brother and father Luther to facilitate this coordination, as even as exceptional as the Lion is, he doesn't even come close to matching Luther's oratory skills. Respect is earned by the Lion, but charisma bleeds from Luther. The decades began to pass, the Crusade racking up a toll of dead on both sides, many of the Lion's friends and brothers giving their life in this relentless pursuit of the beasts.
So, Lion L. Johnson is not a charismatic leader, because that's what usually you get from these Primarchs, that they're able to speak to the common man or common woman on the street and galvanize them and lead them to victory. Because usually that's what you hear about these Primarchs that lead their societies, that they're very good at making speeches, they're very good at bringing confidence into their people and taking them down a path that they wouldn't have never really thought of doing. But because this Primarch is here and they're giving this galvanizing speech, they will follow them into the jaws of death. But it seems that Lion L. Johnson is not that type of Primarch. That's very interesting.
Even fighting the creature of his own namesake, the Calibanite Lion, the battle would push him to the edge of his abilities.
Man, is that how the lion looks like? Yeesh. No.
Even with his superhuman skills, the fearsome creature almost cost him his life. But yet the Lion was victorious, removing that creature's taint from the world forever. Now a respected high-ranking member of the Order, the Lion is a legend, a name whispered with reverence amongst the new recruits and the younger members of the Order, all hoping to emulate the man, no, the demigod, the Lion. In the victory halls of Alderuk, the knights feast, they chant and they rave, lifting up their successful brothers from hunts, never forgetting to enjoy the life they live. Yet the solitary figure in the corner would catch the eyes of the young Zahariel, following the enormous man, the Lion, to the balconies of Alderuk. Many a times all of the young recruits and even the Lion had heard of the victories of previous nights, the honors, the laurels. But now the Lion wishes to speak of something else, the future.
Okay. And like any Primarch, after they've conquered their world, they don't know what to do with themselves. When you think about Jagatai Khan and how he conquered his world of Jagoras, what was next for him? You know? Because he's already conquered as everything that is able to be conquered. And he doesn't like to sit on his successes. He doesn't like to sit and build an empire, a kingdom, because that breeds complacency in the leader of his people. You know, that's the type of thing he does not believe in. He doesn't believe in that culture of building an empire and then sitting on its success. And thus his idea was heading down a dilemma, because there was no further room for conquest. There was no further room for expansion. He's conquered his homeworld. What's next? And it seems like Lionel Johnson is heading down the same path. What's next after he's conquered his homeworld? What's next for the Order? Okay.
It is good to look up at the stars,
said the lion, finally breaking his long silence.
At times like this, a man needs to take stock of his life. I find there is no better place to take stock than beneath the stars.
The lion smiled, and Zahariel found the smile dazzling. It was clear that the lion was trying to put him at ease, but Zahariel found it almost impossible to talk to him, as though he was any other man. Johnson was too big, his presence too imposing. A man could no more ignore his extraordinary nature than he could ignore the wind and the rain, or the transition from day to night. There was something similarly elemental about the lion. Lionel Johnson was the apotheosis of all humanity's dreams for itself. He was the perfection given human form, like the first example of a new race of man.
The cleansing of the forest is entering its final stage, Zahariel. Did you know that?
No, my lord. I had thought the campaign was likely to continue for some time.
No, not at all,
said the lion, his brow furrowing slightly. Though Zahariel could not be sure if it was amusement or contemplation.
According to our best estimates, there are perhaps a dozen or so great beasts left in total. Certainly no more than 20.
Wow, you guys are really effective. Wow.
They are all in the North Wilds. We have scoured every other region of Caliban and cleared out the beasts that were hiding there. Only the North Wilds are left.
But that would mean the campaign is nearly over.
Nearly. At most, it should take another 3 months. Incidentally, you realize Amodis has asked that you be recorded in the annals of the Order as having assisted in slaying one of the last of them. A fearsome creature as well, from all accounts. Though Amodis killed it, you should be proud of your actions in the fight. You saved the lives of many of your brothers.
Not all of them,
said Zahariel, remembering Palion's screams as the beast tore him apart.
I couldn't save them all.
That is something every warrior must get used to. No matter how skillfully you lead your warriors, some of them will die.
It was only a matter of luck that I didn't die. The sheerest chance.
A good warrior will always take advantage of chance. He should adapt to the changing circumstances of battle. War is all about opportunities, Zahariel. To be victorious, we must always be ready to take hold of our opportunities as they arise. You showed initiative in fighting that beast. More than that, you demonstrated excellence. Precisely as the verbatim defines these things and sets them out as our ultimate aim. We cannot know what mysteries the universe holds or what challenges we may face in the future. All we can do is live our lives to the fullest extent we can, and cultivate the virtue of trying to achieve excellence in all things. When we go to war, it should be as master warriors. When we make peace, we should be equally adept. It is not good for human beings to accept second best. Our lives are short. We should make merit of them while we can.
Abruptly coming to silence, the lion continued to stare up at the night sky as Zahariel stood beside him.
I like how Lion L. Johnson thinks. Yeah, it's quite refreshing, really. I'm not entirely sure he's saying that we should pursue perfection. I don't think he's actually saying that, but he's just saying do your best, try your best, always strive to be at your best and to do your best, no matter the circumstances. And however you find yourself in a battlefield, make sure that with whatever is around you, whatever is necessary for you to attain that victory, do it, get it. Don't feel sorry for yourself. And yeah, I think I like that type of thought process. Unlike, for instance, if I could say Fulgrim and his legion, how they are always pursuing perfection. Something that you can never really attain. It's an illusion. But they're forever pursuing this notion of perfection. And it clouds their judgment, it makes them arrogant, it makes them think that they are superior to their brother legions, or Fulgrim superior to his other brothers. That's not really what I would want from a Primarch. I would want what Lionel Johnson is saying here right now. Yeah. Interesting.
I wonder what is in the stars. The old tales say there are thousands, perhaps millions of planets out there, just like Caliban. They say Terra is one of them. It is strange, don't you think, that every child born of Caliban knows the name Terra? We count it as the source and wellspring of our culture, but if the tales are true, it has been thousands of years since we had contact with that source. But what if the tales are false? What if Terra is a myth? A fable invented by our forefathers to account for our place in the cosmos? What if our fathers' tales are lies?
It would be terrible,
Zahariel said. He felt a shiver and told himself the night was growing colder.
People take the existence of Terra for granted. If it had all turned out to be a myth, we might start to doubt everything. We would lose our moorings. We wouldn't know what to believe.
True. But in other ways it would free us. We would no longer need to be responsible to the past. The present and the future would be our only boundaries. Take the current campaign against the great beasts as an example. You are young, Zahariel. You cannot be aware of the bitter arguments, the threats and recriminations that were directed toward me when I first advanced the plans for my campaign. All too often, I found that the causes of these objections were rooted in some dated custom that had long ago worn out its welcome. Tradition is a fine ideal, but not when it serves as a shackle on our future endeavors. If it wasn't for Luther and his fine oratory, I doubt the plan would have ever been approved. It's the same with so many issues that confront us today. The diehards and the sticks in the mud oppose us at every step. Irrespective of the value of the plans I put forward, they always make reference to the past, to tradition, as though our past was so filled with shining glories that we might actually want to preserve it forever. But I'm not interested in the past, Zahariel.
Man, I'm liking Lionel Johnson so far. I am really liking him. Because he and I kind of have the same thought process, especially when it comes to culture and traditions. I'm not really a big fan of such things, especially when it's cultures and traditions that contradict the reality of the day. you know, or they just simply don't make sense. Why are we following these things? Just because our fathers' or ancestors did it, now we must also continue on that path. No. Especially when it does not benefit the community as a whole. I'm with him 100%.
I think only of the future.
The lion paused. Standing beside him, Zahariel wondered what Lord Cypher would make of this speech, decrying the value of tradition. Might this be another test? One designed to see whether he would simply acquiesce to what the lion was saying, or stand up for the values of tradition. As he looked upon the lion's countenance, he saw a strange intensity to the way he stared up at the sky, as if he loved and hated the stars at the same time.
Sometimes I wish it was in my power to wipe that past away. I wish there was no myth of terror. I wish Caliban had no past. Look at a man without a past and you see a free man. It's always easier to build when you build from scratch. Then again, I look at the stars and I think I am too hasty. I look to the stars and I wonder what is out there. How many undiscovered lands, how many new challenges, how bright and hopeful might our future be if we could make it to the stars.
Oh, don't worry, you will. Just give it time.
Such a thing seems unlikely. For the moment, at least.
You are right. What if the stars were to come to us?
I don't understand.
Truthfully, nor do I. But on nights when the stars are bright, I dream of a golden light, and of all the stars in the heavens coming down to Caliban and changing our world forever.
Is Lionel Johnson a psyker? Can you see into the future? Huh.
The stars come down to Caliban? Do you think it means anything?
The lion shrugged.
Who knows? I feel I ought to know its relevance, but every time I think I sense a connection to the golden light, it fades and leaves me alone in the dark.
Then, as though shaking off the loss of such a dream, the lion said,
In any case, the stars are denied to us, so we will build a future here on Caliban. Still, if we are to be limited in that way, we will not allow it to limit our vision. If we are only able to build our lives on Caliban without access to the stars, then we will make this world paradise.
The lion extended an arm, sweeping it in a broad gesture across the nighttime panorama of the dark forest and treetops below the walls of Alderuk.
This will be our paradise, Zahariel. This is where we will build a bright new future. The campaign against the Great Beast is only the first step. We will create a golden age. We will make the world anew. Does that sound like a noble aim to you?
It does, my lord.
Me too. Me too. I like it. I like it. If you can't reach the stars, then make your home a paradise. One fit for the gods. You know, what is the planet called again? Calibanians, if I can say that. You know, you will make your home a paradise where you can share in its, resources and live out your existence in peace and with all the amenities that any human would need to survive. Yeah. Make it a paradise.
Aim worth committing our lives to. I raise this question here and now because of your youth. It is the young who will build this future, Zahariel. You have shown promise. You have the potential to be a true son of Caliban, a crusader.
Well, if the Emperor didn't arrive, or should I say, if the Imperium of Man did not find you, you would be with them, Johnson. You would be building this future with them. Even as Zarahiel, this guy, as he grows older and passes away, you're still going to be here. You're immortal. So you'll be watching over this paradise being built and being maintained.
Not just against the beasts, but against every other evil that ails our people. Does that seem a worthy purpose?
It does.
It is said by Luther that the lion is the loneliest man on Caliban, because he's just so exceptional, so far above everyone else. He is even known to be able to imitate the sound of any animal on Caliban. He can make the cries of raptors, even imitating the mating call of a cervix. And even in the halls of Alderuk, it was said the lion had a beautiful...
Wait, why would he need to know how to make a mating call of some animal? For what reason? Hey, okay.
Beautiful singing voice. He'd learnt all the old songs, all the melodies, the tales of ancient Caliban, that many times, even when he was growing up beside Luther, it brought Luther to tears many times. The lion's prowess, his skill with the blade, his intellect, it was so far above everyone else that he couldn't find any equals. Even at times, Luther himself just couldn't keep up with his own adopted son. And so he had no equals on Caliban. The lion was alone. Even to Zahariel, one of the younger, more newer members of the Order, even he is just completely overtaken and surprised by how exceptional the lion truly is.
But in the end, it's lonely at the top, like all the other Primarchs that have achieved in unifying their homeworld. You know, there's nothing left for them now. They're just waiting. They're just dreaming. They're just hoping that there's someone out there who's going to rescue them from this stagnation, because that's what it is now. There's no further challenge. There's no further, opponent that can give them excitement. There's nothing that they can do. But at least, Johnson has a new objective, and that is to make his homeworld into a paradise for his people. But even after that, what's next? The Emperor made them this way to be the best fighters, to be the best at anything and everything they put their minds to. And really, they are trapped in that type of situation. And the only way they can find peace with themselves or with their own existence is with their peers, their brothers. They're the only people that can match up to their level of intellect or strength or capabilities. And of course, the Emperor, who is above them. And that's what will keep them going. That's what will keep Johnson alive and, having a purpose, really. Yeah.
Many times they just see a large being, but when the lion speaks to his visions of what Caliban can be, his dreams about the stars, about taking Caliban beyond just living a life of danger from the beasts in the forests, Zahara can only step back and look in wonder at this man, nay demigod. Truly just shows a level of thought and insight that was far beyond what was the normal existence of the knightly orders simply hunting beasts.
Because they're trapped in tradition. They are trapped in culture. So they, in their minds, they cannot think beyond that type of lifestyle, that type of environment and situation that they are in. Unlike the Primarch, who does not stick to traditions. He does not stick to cultures. He questions it, he probes it, and he finds faults in it. And he wants to sidestep away from that stuff and do something new, where everybody else is just looking at their current reality. He is looking up into space, looking at the stars, looking at what is possible out there. Yeah.
The lion himself never truly understands if it's something he's developed over time, or if it's something innate within him, almost like it's in his DNA, like he's born to be a world shaper. He's born to have dreams and visions that will unite people, bring people together, and change the very fate of planets. But in these visions he feels truly alone. No one else other than besides Luther can perhaps share in these ideals and goals, but he seems to be the only one who really has the drive and the will to bring together all these people, if he can. And this will be a future inherited by the knights like Zahariel and his younger cousin Nemiel. These will be the future of Caliban, that even if the Lion doesn't know how long he will live, he knows that he must be the one to lay the foundations for it. Caliban, after decades, has purged thousands of beasts across the planet, leaving the last pocket of resistance within the infamous North Wilds region, the domain and territory of the Knights of Lupus Order. Conflict between these two orders is inevitable, as the Knights of Lupus seem hesitant to fully purge the rest of the beasts, their own hesitancy sending warnings and frustration within the Lion.
Wait, what's their reason for not killing these dangerous beasts? What's their reason? Why aren't they killing them off?
Even some of the Lion's very own scouts, who ventured too far within the North Wilds region, were slain by the Knights of Lupus. A dishonour that was clearly the beginning of more to come. The elderly Grand Master Sartana of the Knights of Lupus made his way towards Aldoruk, greeted by the Lion and the growing ranks of the Order. A display of power, and a way for the Lion to show off, showing how the Order is filled with many recruits, drawn in by the legends such as him, Luther, and many others. Master Sartana chastises the Lion, declaring that he has gone against previous promises, and that he has clearly laid down the foundations for this conflict. And perhaps this is true, for the Lion sees them as an obstacle for peace. Their hesitancy to not purge the rest of the beasts makes their intentions clear, and makes them obstructions for the future of Caliban. War is declared, as the Order prepares to siege the Knights of Lupus's fortress. As rare as it is, once again humans will battle upon the fields of Caliban. The Order sets off to the North Wilds, and in this culmination of their last obstacle, the Lion is declared the Grand Master of the Order, something many had seen coming. But perhaps in another age, it may have been others like Amadis or Luther, but the demigod figure that was the Lion, it left no one unsure that he was worthy. He, the architect of the Crusade to purge the beasts. It was clear they were all following this man's will, and they followed it with zealotry. The Order and its knights, such as Zahariel and his cousin Nemiel, and thousands of others prepared to kill men. Many within the ranks of the Order had only ever hunted the beasts, and now they hunted their own species for the first time. Outside the walls of the Knights of Lupus's fortress, the mud is thick, the rain is heavy, and in their council meeting the Lion prepares his plan. He knows he will be a target, and uses himself as a distraction, so that Luther may take the main force to charge the gate. Luther protests, stating that if he was to fight and die, that it would be by his brother's side. No matter if they had lost everything, the brothers would always have each other. They had fought the beast together, and Luther would be remiss if he was not there to protect his brother, even as superhuman as he was. The siege began in flame and smoke. The Knights of the Order began their assault. Siege towers were pushed with a heavy heave from men, whilst the catapult rained down fire. Upon the walls and the gates they began to cut down the Knights of Lupus, in brutal hand-to-hand combat. The sensation of fighting men, one that seemed to even horrify the men of the Order, such as Zahariel and Nemiel. The Lion's men began to overwhelm their enemy, until the dark truth was revealed upon the field of battle. The Knights of Lupus unleashed tamed beasts, from their own armory. The act itself a heretical betrayal of the knightly order vows that many had taken. The lion felt his blood sing with heat. The very beasts who had attacked the people of Caliban, now within the ranks of those who were meant to cut them down.
This is shocking. Well, now we know why the Knights of Lupus, or the Lupus Order, have been so against eradicating all of these beasts.
Those who were meant to protect the people. The lion pushed on from his distraction force, charging at the beasts, and for the first time many within the Order saw the lion fight up close. Many now truly taking in the size of him, how deadly he was, his skill with the blade, how far beyond human he truly was. It would cost many lives, but the lion, Luther, Zahariel and Nemiel, and the Knights of the Order annihilated the Knights of Lupus. And in the ashes of their victory, the lion demanded the fealty of the other orders, uniting them into one, a knightly force that would cover the entire planet. But to the shock of many, he did not order the destruction of the Knights of Lupus's hold. Orders came from the lion to keep their library intact, one that brought a questioning look from many of them, others believing the knowledge within to be heretical. But as the Order had taught him, the lion did not destroy secrets. The contents of the library were transported back to Aldoruk. Information was information. It was how you used it. And yet even in this time of great victory, another mystery of Caliban came to fruition. And for the first time in his life, the lion came in contact with the Watchers in the Dark. An ancient myth, one he had heard many times growing up within the walls of Aldoruk, from the many tutors and teachers he had. Suspected ancient Xenos, who masked their true form and appeared as small robed humanoids. Their goals were mysterious, and even to be within their presence it unnerved even him. But yet there was something intrinsic within them, something that tied them to Caliban itself, something the lion kept to himself, not even telling his own father Luther of their interactions. The lion and the Order had finally purged the beasts on Caliban. It was a time for celebration. The people felt relief. They could leave their homes, leave the safety of their walls. They lived in a time of peace. The lion led a victory march from Aldoruk, from the old veterans of the Order to the young, carrying the banners proudly. It was an honouring of a legacy of thousands upon thousands of years of conflict. A war finally won, until like a vision he had seen in a dream, the lion saw a Calibanite eagle. Rare creatures, not dangerous, but they were regarded as birds of omen by the superstitious of Caliban. The lion paused. He had seen it. He had seen it in his dreams. This moment. Johnson looked to the sky to see a bird of metal and large warriors in powered armor descend around the panicking knights.
Oh, the Empress here.
They drew their blades and pistols, only for the lion to order them to stand down. Luther barking the orders down the ranks as his warriors clad in powered armor stepped forward. They declared that they were members of the First Legion of the Master of Mankind, the Imperium of Man that comes from terror. They had come to unite mankind across the stars, and they were overjoyed as now they had found their Primarch.
Wait a minute, so the First Legion are the ones who introduced themselves to Lionel Johnson. It wasn't the Emperor. The Emperor's not here. He's not the one saying, "Hello, my son. Welcome back to the Imperium of Man," or something like that. But it's actually his legion. Alright. That's actually quite different and nice, I would say. You know, usually it's the Emperor introducing a Primarch to the Legion, or the Emperor introducing himself to the Primarch, and then he takes him aboard his vessel. They go back to Terra, gets the education he requires, and then he meets up with his legion together with another Primarch, something like that. But here, the First Legion landed on the planet, and they are the ones who are, welcoming their Primarch to the Imperium of Man. Yeah, that's different.
Gene Father, Lion L. Johnson. It felt like a moment the Lion knew would come for his whole life. Many things about his own life had started to make sense. He had never had the time to ponder. Always in danger in the forests of Caliban. Always learning and training in the walls of Alderuk. But now he allowed himself to take in and answer those mysteries. Where did he come from? Who was he? His incredible form and mind. And now he finally learned the truth. He was a son of the Emperor of Mankind. He was born within the gene labs of Terra, and he had been lost, but now had been finally reunited with his home and his family. A legion of thousands of superhuman warriors, created from his own genetic material. A galaxy-spanning empire, created from his father, and a mission to conquer the stars. The Lion's life changed forever. Despite him and this Emperor, his father, seeming so aligned on so many things, he still found it hard to get used to. The idea of having a true father. Even within his own heart, Luther had felt more like an older brother, for the Lion had never found it truly easy to bond with people. And in truth, many times he has stared upon his own adoptive father Luther, wondering how he bonded with people so easily. As Luther had said, the Lion was the loneliest man upon Caliban, but now it had changed forever. The Lion was no longer alone, and perhaps no longer the strongest in the room, as the Emperor told him of his brothers, the Primarchs. In many ways it was a comfort to him, to converse with the beings that were his equal, men who could understand him. But yet he never found it quite easy to connect with them, never truly bonding to the point of friendship, finding more comfort within his own Calibanites. Though he respected many of his brothers, such as Horus, Dawn, Sanguinius, the Khan, and Gilliman.
So even if he does have his brothers, he's still pretty much of a loner type of person. Kind of like Jagatai Khan in a way. Okay. Well, at least you have the siblings. It's something.
The Lion adjusted quickly, finding that many of the customs of the First Legion, his sons, sharing many of the similarities between the knightly orders. He began to incorporate many of the traditions of Caliban within his legion. Gone was the old title of First Legion, renaming them to the Dark Angels, giving them the brand after an ancient Calibanite myth. Even bringing over the complex hierarchy of the Order, where ranks can change based upon knowledge and levels of secrecy within the Legion's practices. Even the world of Caliban would change, becoming the new recruitment ground for the Legion, as many of the young knights from various orders joined the Grand Master, pushing themselves through the brutal process and becoming Astartes. The Crusade upon Caliban had been completed, a time that brought many worry, wondering what their purpose would be, but a new purpose quickly filled the void, as after years of training and recruitment, the Lion and the Calibanite Marines joined the Great Crusade. They would conquer the stars and fight Xenos and non-compliant colonies of mankind. And just as how the Lion had united Caliban, they would unite humanity, armed with the Imperial truth, and a legion of hundreds of thousands of Astartes. The Lion would join the battle across the stars. Immediately the Lion was thrown into horrifying conflict, finding within a short time within the Great Crusade that he and his legion would take part in the campaign of the Rangdan Xenocides. The Rangda were a vile Xenos race that enslaved many other sentient races to themselves, using them as slaves or puppets within their own wars. These masters taken straight from Lovecraftian horror. Xenos that could haunt the mind of any mortal man. It would be this war, this Xenocide, that would be the hardest fought in the entire Great Crusade. And even with the tactical genius of the Lion, it would cost thousands of Astartes, millions of mortal men and women. At its height, the Lion would have command over 300,000 space marines.
300,000? That's a lot. Oh.
The Imperium's champion as it faced its worst enemy at the time. It would be a war that the Lion eventually won. For even against his brothers, his tactical acumen was superior.
Wait, 300,000 space marines. How many human auxiliary forces did he have? Did he also have into the millions of Imperial Guard? Huh.
Though the conflict would change the balance of the legions, as now the Dark Angels, who had fought valiantly and bravely, were no longer the most numerous. Many of the Terran elements of the Legion giving their lives within the conflict. From war zone to war zone, the Lion would move, his Legion and him earning a reputation of honor and prowess. But the Great Crusade would change for the Lion upon the planet of Sarosh. The negotiation with the governors of Sarosh broke down after months of talks, leading to a confrontation and a suicidal assassination attempt upon its own life. The leaders of the world hiding a nucleonic warhead within their own ship, hoping to take themselves and the Lion out together. A plan which almost succeeded.
Not bad. I like that. I like your tenacity. I like that. You know, yes, use extreme measures to destroy this very powerful entity called a Primarch. Yeah, that's impressive. Not many people actually think about doing something like that, you know? So yeah, that's... You got balls. You got balls.
If not for the last-minute intervention of Zahariel and Luther. The warhead was blasted into space, the Legion only taking minor casualties. But much to the Lion's shock, he found that his father, his brother, Luther, had faltered. The older Knight of Caliban hadn't reported his suspicions earlier. He had waited, almost allowing the assassination to succeed.
Why? Why would Luther do that?
And when the truth was finally revealed, the Lion felt it cut deeply. From a man who said he would have died by his side, to almost allowing him to be killed. He was let down by the man who had saved him from the forests. The man who was meant to be his father. The man who had tutored him, given him love, trained him to be the man that he would become. He didn't hate him. For how could he hate the man who had given him so much? But how could he fully trust him now either? He knew Luther had come through in the end. But how could he trust a man like that at his back? How could he trust many of the other Calibanites? Perhaps they too shared in the feelings of Luther. And yet even upon the face of Luther, the Lion couldn't read it. He couldn't perceive the truth behind the shame. He couldn't perceive the momentary jealousy. The Lion and the Legion descended down to the planet of Sarosh, finding a monstrous Xenos creature.
Wait, hold on. So, Luther almost betrayed his Primarch because of jealousy? Is that the reason? I'm not entirely sure what Luther's reason was for not informing his Primarch about this potential assassination on his life, or attempt on his life. What was his motivation for not telling his Primarch? In fact, he should be compelled to tell his Primarch because he has a gene seed in him that is, the genetic makeup of his Primarch. So he's supposed to be loyal. Very, very loyal. And yet, somehow, Luther was capable of almost betraying his Primarch at that very moment. So what's going on here? Why did Luther, allow all of this to occur to the point where Lionel L. Johnson was about to be assassinated? I don't understand.
Created from the sacrificed blood of thousands. A creature that had been mind-controlling the population of Sarosh. A jelly-like body that was like that of some deep ocean trench dweller, shimmering, appearing fragile, and lit from within by bursts of coloured, electric light.
Is this a Xeno race, or is it a demon? And they just think it is a Xeno creature. Ugh.
With a million eyes that stared out from its hideous form, the lion drew his sword, and the legion charged, as writhing tentacles launched forth, attacking the dark angels at many different points. The Primarch roared, launching into the battle with fury, and despite taking many casualties, and with the lion and his sons buying time, Zahariel detonated a psychic device, eviscerating the Xenos creature. But it didn't feel like victory, as in the wake of this conflict the lion had been shaken. Never before had he felt like he couldn't rely upon his brothers. When one had descended into the forest for the hunt, he had to trust in those around him. To have no trust was death, and his trust in Luther, Zahariel, and many of the Caliban knights had waned. Back to Caliban,
Oh, why? Why is Zahariel? What did he do? What did he do? What did he do? I didn't hear what he did. Luther, yes, I kind of understand. He kind of betrayed the Primarch. But now Zahariel, what did he do? Hey. Just because of one person, now everybody must suffer. No, Lionel, no, man. I like you. Don't do this. Don't be that person. Don't be that person, man. Don't be consumed by paranoia. Just because of one person, now everybody must also be under suspicion. No.
he would send them. If they could no longer be trusted upon the field of battle, then the best use for their abilities and a path for redemption for those that had erred or faltered would be in recruitment. And even in his own heart of hearts, he felt like his father, Luther, cared more for Caliban, but yet he did not communicate this to his own father. He believed that the man Luther knew him, and he understood why he had to do this. For a man so brilliant, so intelligent, so deadly, it is almost hard to believe he faltered in reading the true feelings of those closest to him, the true feelings of Luther. With the compliance of Sarosh, the Lion set out to pursue another Xenos threat that had threatened the Imperium, a Xenos race that the Lion despised, one he had seen before during the Rangdan Xenocides. The Lion and the Legion prepared to battle once again.
Man, the Legion is a Xenocide specialist. Specialist group, really. They're only going after Xeno races. I'm sure, yes, they have been going after, human non-compliant worlds, right? But they're really going after these Xeno races.
The Crave.
The Heresy begins.
The Lion frowned as he stepped off, boots crunching on glass. He had hunted quarry by touch and smell alone, and had been stalked through the lightless defiles knowing the sound of a single breath would be his end.
You are a less patient hunter than I.
He drew the Lion's sword, slowly, Thrumming the activation rune worked into the grip as it came free, bathing 20 square meters of hangar deck in coolly energized light. The Crave host stood exposed where she had been waiting for him, on the flight deck. Her hair was the color of ominous flame, her black eyes drinking in the glow of the lion's sword. Yet for all her supernatural features, it was her posture that struck him as most uncanny, lacking the subconscious cower that betrayed even the bravest men when confronted by a Primarch of the Legiones Astartes. She stood straight-backed and haughty, jaw upturned as though she looked up because she chose to, rather than because the 1.5 meter difference in height between them meant that she had to.
Did you believe you could hide? I am the Angel of Darkness.
Lionel Johnson,
She said in a voice like grinding glass.
you grace me with your presence at last.
Are you sure this ain't a demon? It sounds like a demon to me. It sounds like you're going to be fighting with a demon here, Lionel Johnson. But anyways, let's continue.
Lion dipped his head. The Imperium would never acknowledge this foe, or know the cause of their annihilation from history. And so it was only just that the Lion salute a worthy adversary before the end.
Savine.
The woman bared black-veined teeth.
You know her name?
Did she imagine that I did not? Is that the petty resentment that weakened her mind to you? No one is admitted aboard my ship without my approval. Nothing transpires here without my knowledge. I keep no secrets that cannot suffer scrutiny. Malcador knows this as well as I. I requested Savine.
The Crave host swayed as though struck.
Okay, so was Sevi working for Malkidor? Malkidor the Sigillite. And then you are the one, I would try to say, Primarch Lionel Johnson is the one who requested for Sevi to come aboard his vessel. Or maybe I'm confused. Yeah, okay, sorry. Let's just continue.
Savine has suffered for her shortcomings. As soon will you. I have already slain one of your kind. Your arrogance in facing me is deeply misjudged.
He was young, barely 6 times older than your race. You speak to me of arrogance while failing to recognize the strength in front of you.
Tell me your true name, Xenos. I alone will recognize it after your demise.
It is beyond your ability to pronounce or comprehend. Savine will suffice.
Yeah, you're a demon. You're a demon. You're a demon.
She would have enjoyed this moment if she were still here.
The Lion looked up.
Yeah, this demon has taken possession over this lady's body. Sevi. Yeah. I'm sure of it.
The Crave host hovered a meter above him. She dropped with a laugh, sinking her claws into his scalp. The docking bay disappeared. It was still there, after a fashion. A reflection glimpsed through the smoke, vanishing with every shift of the wind. The fire gutted to embers, the shadows stretching up like tall trees, like bars. The hard bangs of Tregane's bolts were echoes through the vastness of a forest at dawn.
This is Caliban.
This is your mind,
said Savine. She looked around, feigning interest of the remembrances whose skin she wore. In this place of the mind, her appearance was almost human. Dark veins withdrawn, pupils shrunken, only a faint luminosity of the skin that was in tune with the unreality of her surroundings.
What a drab and flavorless place it is, too. A mind like this has no right to exist. You, your brothers, your sons, you sicken me.
Yeah. Is that all you can do? Talk? Seriously?
The Lion struck with his sword. only to find his hand empty. Fingers uncurled from their grip as Savine laughed.
All your prowess, all your gene-wrought strength, it is worth nothing here. In here, I am...
The words became an airless choke as the lion lifted her by the throat. Her eyes bulged.
I like that. I like that voice acting right there, right? That was really funny. That was really funny. That was really funny. Because I was getting tired of this demon and it's, forever talking. Like, show us what you can do. Bring your paws up. Let's see if you can fight.
Her feet kicking futilely as she scratched at his forearms. The leaves of the shadow forest rustling and wavering as she did so. But no relief or rescue broke through. The reality that the Primarch had constructed. The lion was the master of all his domains.
You have dived willingly into a Primarch's mind, and for that hubris alone, you deserve this failure.
He squeezed tighter. The hands around her throat were metaphorical, the assault mental, the psychological equivalent of a covering of a candle with a jar. Only his flame fed off the energies of the ether rather than air. The air was thick with smoke, tainted with the harsh odors of burnt metal and solder. Hundreds of fires of various sizes, and severity burned over the familiar. It grievously mauled the topography of the docking bay. The lion shifted position, his body telling him he had been immobile for longer than his recollection of the events could account for. Savine's body limply fell from his shoulder. She landed with the grace of a corpse. Tregane approached, and he looked at Savine. Then he looked up at his Primarch. The lion gave a nod.
She is dead.
May I be the first to congratulate you on your recent victory.
Once again, the Emperor received the lion within the staterooms aboard his flagship.
Oh, his flagship. Which one? Is it the Bucephalus or is it the... Oh no, I forgot the name. Oh no, oh, wait a minute. What was it called again? Imperator Somnium, yes. Sorry guys, I forgot the name of the second flag vessel. Yes, the Imperator Somnium. Yeah, which one are you on? But yeah, it's good to hear that the Emperor is now talking with his son. Because from the beginning of the video, during the First Legion, welcoming back their Primarch, welcoming back their Primarch into the Imperium of Man, we haven't heard anything from the Emperor's side, saying, welcome, my son. It's good to have you here, anything like that. So it's good to hear that the Emperor is now talking with his son in his own personal time. I guess you could say that. Yeah.
The glorious suit of golden chambers elevated his imperial majesties to the point of inconsequentiality. So rich were they, so sumptuously appointed that, like the Emperor himself, it was difficult to form a distinct impression beyond a sense of humbling and of awe. Once again, the lion recalled little of the antechamber and the grand processionals that had preceded his passage. It was as if part of him had always been here, in these rooms with his father, and that part could never leave.
Thank you, Father.
You were not the first of my sons to reclaim a place at my side, but your tally of victories is second to no other. Even Horus looks upon them with envy.
Horus inspires, Magnus enlightens, Lorgar illuminates, Rabute raises an Imperium in miniature that celebrates his name and yours. I have left as many worlds behind me as any two of my brothers, but I fear that darkness and ash will be the legacy I leave to your Imperium.
I don't know about that, Lionel Johnson. I mean, you are cleaning house here. You're taking out some very dangerous and powerful xeno races and also chaos entities. Yeah, you're doing things. It may not be as glitz and glamour like your other brothers, but really you are contributing.
The Emperor considered long, as he did often, before giving an answer.
In the time of the Egypta, there was an empress named Hatshepsut. By all accounts of her that survived, she was an equitable and proficient ruler. By the standards of her time, she rebuilt her land in the wake of war and occupation, erecting great monuments and bringing prosperity to her people. She reassembled the Egypta's navy, using it to re-establish their old empire, and launched military campaigns against the nations who had once been their oppressors.
A legacy whose parallels are not hard to see.
And yet, those who came after her did all within their power to ensure that she would have no legacy. Her name was chiseled from every monument, her every deed and triumph stricken from public record. Even her body was removed from its royal tomb.
Why, if her reign was so equitable?
Because those who succeeded her desired it. Because sometimes what comes before is too troublesome to be paved over in rockcrete. To amend with a monument to compliance, or a golden aquila on an imperial flag. Sometimes it is enough only that it be destroyed, that no trace of it but darkness and ash be left to endure.
Man, the Emperor's voice. I love it. I love it. Oh, I love it. I really do. Golden Aquila. I can't talk like that, but man. Oh, okay. Oh.
Yet history still remembers this empress.
The Emperor Thutmose III did not have his dark angels. It is a pity that your campaigns kept you from the triumph. Your presence was missed by your brothers. Horus in particular spoke to me of his regret.
He knows that I would have attended had I been able.
The lie.
Oh, when he was announced to become the War Master, right? Yeah, okay.
Then replied, a tone far sharper than any he had before employed in the presence of his father.
You are troubled.
The Imperium celebrates, but its triumph is empty. The galaxy is not won because Horus has his great victory.
Posturing is important, Lionel Johnson. Posturing is important. You know, an empire can't be working 24/7, 365 days. There have to be celebrations. There have to be some sort of footnote that highlights the successes, the current successes of the Imperium of Man. You know, humans want to celebrate the thing that they've contributed in creating. And the Primarchs are no different. The Primarchs are no different. They may not all think like you, where duty and service and honor is all that is required. You know, some Primarchs want to celebrate. Some Primarchs want to shine and want to be loved by their father and to be recognized by their father. You know, you can think about Perturabo, how he would also want to be recognized by his father. Pilgrim, how he's been recognized by his father so much that he beams a smile at everybody else, showing them his, Aquila that the emperor has given to him, you know. So there's some Primarchs that really do enjoy this sort of show and tell. They love doing stuff like that. And in empire building, it's also very important to have that type of extravaganza. Not everyone's like you, Lionel Johnson.
Recall my words to you. Ulanor is just another victory.
Then why the pageantry?
Some men demand such pomp. They cannot accept the end of one era and the commencement of another without an occasion by which to mark it and give it meaning. Laurels must be given, honors and fair titles invented so that they may be bestowed upon favored generals. Some men need recognition.
The shadows around the Emperor's throne deepened, but beneath the layers of obfuscation, deep within the myriad guises of that singularly unfathomable being, the Lion felt the Emperor behold his firstborn son.
Some men do not.
A hooded figure, armoured in emerald plate, wreathed in obscuring light. Perhaps of all the Emperor's sons, the Lion believes that he is the one who comes the closest to truly perceiving what his father's true face could possibly be. As a boy, he grew up in the forests of Caliban, all alone, that he never quite had that human touch to himself. He always lacked that warmth and that humanity that, say, his father Luther was able to exert and bring people together with. He finds he doesn't need this when he's conversing with the Emperor, because it seems above all else the Emperor understands the Lion on a level that is perhaps more than any of his brothers. In fact, even when the two converse together, it's almost like barely any words are exchanged between the two, because it seems their line of thinking seems to be running parallel to each other. They seem to be beings of the same temperament.
Yeah, perks of being the firstborn son, eh?
Even inside the Order upon Alderuk on Caliban, they still had their traditions of secrecy, of keeping levels of knowledge at certain tiers, levels of responsibility with that knowledge, hidden away for only those in the upper ranks. And this seems to be a sentiment shared and in fact encouraged by the Emperor himself, who keeps many secrets from even his own sons, and it's something which would anger many of them, but yet even with the Lion he understands this and he operates in a similar way within his own legion. It was said that all the Primarchs are encoded with the Emperor's DNA, and each of them represent a small part of him. Some of them his ideals, some of them his powers, but it seems that the Lion being the first, the template for which all other Primarchs would be built, he is perhaps the closest amongst all them to the original, to what the Emperor intends to be, the closest to being an Emperor-like figure. In fact, the Lion even ponders if he learns these ideals from the Order, from Alderuk, or was it encoded in his very being? But
maybe it was reinforced, once he landed on, or should I say crash landed on the planet, and he was taken into the Order. Maybe that sort of personality was reinforced.
The most important thing that the Emperor gifts the Lion, even within his own DNA, is a sense of duty. There are many others like Horus, Fulgrim, Perturabo, others who need the validation, need a father-like hand on their shoulder. But the Lion himself needs none of these things, or the emotion that beats within his own heart is duty. Other men cry for it, they need attention, they need to be acknowledged. The Lion only needs to be knowing that he is doing his duty, the thing he was born to do, and living up to the ideals that he strives for. Even like the Emperor, he finds in himself he has no need of things such as celebrations, no accolades, no triumphs are needed in his name. He only needs to fulfill his duty because that is enough for him. The Great Crusade has washed over the galaxy for nearly 2 centuries.
It will be very hard to convert Lionel Johnson onto the side of chaos. It will be very hard to change this Primarch, to turn this Primarch against the Emperor. Very hard. Because he doesn't depend on the Emperor's validation. He doesn't depend on his brother's validation. He doesn't have that sort of weakness. There is nothing that any of the Chaos Gods can entice him with. Really. He has everything he'd ever need. His legion, his homeworld, and his duty and service to the Emperor. He's not conflicted with the emotions and the ambitions of wanting more, like you could say like Magnus, or like Pilgrim. He doesn't have that sort of weakness.
The Lion himself, having spent over a century at war, battling horrifying Xenos and non-compliant colonies of mankind across thousands upon thousands of worlds. But the Crusade was changing. There was an end almost in sight, the accumulation of this era of war, to be marked with a triumph upon the world of Ullanor, something the Lion chose not to attend, as he continued his proclamation of the war across the stars, into the outer reaches of the galaxy, far from the light and influence of terror. In these far reaches, the Lion and the Dark Angels find themselves against a foe that they had fought once before inside the Rangdan Xenocides, the Crave, Xenos whose true form resembled winged humanoid monstrosities. Creatures that remind the Lion of those he fought upon the forests of Caliban. The Lion finds his fleet infiltrated by a force of these Xenos who possess the ability to possess and infiltrate and control the minds of other life forms, and they begin to sow havoc.
Guys, are we sure these are not demons, man? Or maybe I'm just so obsessed with demons. Really, it sounds like a demon. A winged humanoid xeno creature. Nah, man. That just sounds like a demon to me. But anyways, yeah, maybe I'm a bit obsessed. Oof. That's a bit worrisome right there. But anyways, let's continue.
It is something they find almost ineffectual, as through the secrecy of the Lion's Legion, they struggle to rip the secrets and knowledge from those who serve within these great fleets. The Lion gathers his men to him, and leads a purge throughout the vessel, able to find the Crave, and the possessed humans because he, a master of secrets, knows every person permitted upon his ship, leaving him to deduce who the infiltrators were. One even tries to enter his own mind, placing him within a vision upon Caliban, but this Crave underestimates a Primarch, one who is a master of such discipline in the material, is also a master of his own mind, allowing him to overpower and then throttle the Crave to death. But in its attempts to scour secrets from the Lion's mind, it in turn has allowed the Lion to see its own, and now he knows where to find the creature's nest, the Ghoul Stars, a region of space whose reputation is of madness and death. The Lion genuinely loves his sons. He calls them his little brothers, to show that he believes them to be his equals.
Really? My little brothers. I'm sorry, no, I'm sorry, no, I don't like it, okay? I just don't like it. My little brothers, no. That's weird. I don't know. Calling your Astartes that is, it to me it sounds a bit condescending in a way. I don't know. I just don't feel right, my little brothers. Okay.
But because he loves them, he also maintains high expectations of them, and in his heart he understands that sometimes he must order them to their deaths, to conflicts he knows they will not return from. His sons too feel that bond, sensing within their Primarch true trust, something he values above all else, something that led to the compromise of Luther, and to why he cannot allow his father at his side. He trusts them to the degree that he allows them to make their own decisions, but he knows they will make the right choices even in his absence. Many other Terrans he had earned the loyalty of since those early days, but yet many of them are Calibanites, who had followed him from the knightly orders to the stars. Many of them feeling that bond with him, of wishing to return to Caliban, of feeling uncomfortable in these claustrophobic ceramite halls, wishing again to hear the sound and the smells of the Calibanite forests. But many will never return to Caliban, as their duty is to the Great Crusade.
You know what I find quite interesting is that they still retain the memories of their homeworld. They still have that emotional tie with their homeworld. Usually these types of things are erased or suppressed, so that the only things you have on your mind are your Primarch, the Imperium of Man, and that's it. Anything else is just either destroyed or suppressed to the point where it's no longer existing in Astartes' mind, because those are the type of things that can compromise an Astartes. If they have emotional ties to their homeworld to such an extent where they still remember, you know, the rolling hills and the mountains and the fresh air and, you know, just them enjoying their lives when they were younger, that could be used against them by their enemies. So I'm a bit surprised that, you know, these Astartes, they still retain the memories of their homeworld and that love for their homeworld, you know, just as much as they love their Primarch. Interesting.
Finding themselves in the hellish, unstable region named the Ghoul Stars, the Lion leads his men towards the heart of the Crave's nest, finding the Autarch Thonar, a psychic weapon created in a war lost to time, the origin and creator of the Crave. Johnson and his men battle this titanic creature, the Dark Angels deploying 20 Leviathan dreadnoughts into the battle, said to be an extremely rare maneuver that only a few legions could ever pull off.
Leviathan dreadnoughts. Huh, okay. I don't know what type of dreadnoughts those are, but they sound, you know, powerful. Leviathan dreadnoughts.
But such is the expertise and rare weapons gifted to the First Legion, the Template, the Legion from which all others would be created, the Primarch from which all others would be moulded. Again the Lion finds his mind invaded, now by a creature infinitely worse and more powerful than before, and he finds that he is failing against the psychic might of this being, until his son Duriel sacrifices himself by blowing up the Crave nest with him inside, the backlash allowing the Lion a reprieve, as the beast reels from having lost so many of its own kind. The reprieve allows the Lion to slay the beast, and in turn protect humanity forever from its invasive, possessive, and predatory ways. It would be towards the tail end of the Great Crusade that Johnson, in a joint compliant action with the Space Wolves Legion and Leman Russ on the planet of Doolan, that he would find conflict not just with an enemy, but also with an ally. In ensuring compliance of this world, Johnson led an assault against the rebel leadership, cutting down the leader personally. It was then that Russ stormed into the Citadel, furious, as he had previously declared an oath to slay the leader himself, after the leader had given a slight to his honour. Russ, the ever hot-tempered, leapt at the Lion, beginning days of a duel between the two Primarchs.
Leman Russ. Lemon Ross. You are exhausting. You are exhausting.
They spanned across the Citadel grounds. The two demigods clashed at a speed beyond mortal sight, the fury of Russ meeting the anvil of the tempered and measured Lion, only for eventually Russ to begin laughing at the absurdity of it all. But this feeling was not shared by the Lion. Time had been wasted by this pointless duel. They were generals first, not brothers, and he knocked his brother out cold, out of the frustration he felt. How could his brother treat war like a game? But yet this very duel would birth a tradition, one continued by the two legions that would continue even to the modern timeline. It would be at the tail end of these 2 centuries of war that Johnson would find the politics of the Imperium shifting. There had been rumours for many years that now he had seen come true. The Emperor had stepped down from an active role within the Great Crusade at the triumph of Ulanor, declaring before the weeping millions of mortal men in the parade grounds as thousands upon thousands of Astartes stood, hoisting their banners proud. The Emperor would leave the Great Crusade, declaring a new War Master to lead in his stead, one he had chosen to be Horus, the first found son. Many of the Primarchs felt a sense of anguish at the Emperor keeping secret his reason for returning to Terra, but for the Lion he understands, and he felt no slight, for he in turn kept his own secrets. He alone understood the Emperor, and had no need for answers, but yet he disagreed with the Emperor for the one chosen for the role of War Master, not because it was a reward of the service the Lion had given, not because he deserved it more than any of his brothers, but because he simply believed he was the best choice. His tactical acumen surpassed even the mighty Horus Lupercal.
But it's not about any of that, Lionel Johnson, sorry. It's not about your tactical acumen or your strength or any of that sort of things. It's you have to juggle all of your brothers as the War Master. You know, their desires, their needs, their ambitions. You have to juggle all of that. And you have to juggle the intricacies of maintaining an empire. Yes, they are the High Lords of Terra who hold the power of the civilian government, but you as the War Master will be holding power of the military government, government aspect of the Imperium of Man. And even in that, it requires a lot of communication, it requires political meanderings and dealings and bureaucratic control and understanding. And you don't seem like a Primarch that would be suited for that sort of responsibility. You know, you are pretty much a loner. You are so far away from the center of politics within the Imperium of Man. You and your legion are very far away. You like that type of freedom that you have with that, responsibility for expanding the Imperium of Man further away from the center. Now, if you became the War Master, you would be bogged down in responsibilities in maintaining the Great Crusade throughout the galaxy. And, I mean, Lionel Johnson knows this himself, that he's not really well connected with his brothers. He doesn't have that emotional connection with them. He's more like the Emperor. And as a War Master, you can't be like the Emperor. You have to be a politician. You have to understand your brothers. You have to understand the intricacies of the Great Crusade. You know, with human management behind it as well. And you're not that type of person. And that's what's needed. So it was just not going to work with you, I think.
His temperament, being that the closest to the Emperor, would he not be the best to honour the Emperor's will? But he didn't begrudge his brother Horus, for he believed he too was still a worthy pick for the role of War Master. And the Lion in his heart of hearts understood that he did not have a close bond with any of his brothers. They were his equals. They were generals in the Emperor's armies, and perhaps Horus was better at rowling in all these conflicting personalities. It would only be a decade later that Lionel Johnson and the Dark Angels would hear the news that would shock them to the core. The War Master Horus, alongside 3 other legions, had betrayed the Emperor.
This image of Horus is sick, I mean, look at him. With his Terminator armor, and I don't know what that is on his shoulder here. Is it like, it's a wolf pelt? Maybe, I'm thinking. Yeah. Wow. Ugh. He just looks like he's imbued with chaos power in this image. Supersized. The armor is in this dark reddish color, you know, with all the eyes of Horus, and himself, of course, the face with all those cables connecting to his skull. Ugh. He just looks chaos.
And declared open rebellion. The news shook the Imperium to its core. Even the Dark Angels didn't understand, and were even daunted at the prospect of fighting other Astartes. A concept I'd seen so alien before, but Johnson didn't allow himself to feel this shock, and immediately devised a strategy to aid in the downfall of these traitors. It left him uneasy that he didn't understand the reasons behind this rebellion, and in his naivety he believed that the traitors could be brought back into the fold in some way, chastised perhaps. Unable to bring the Dark Angel's fleet to Isfahan in time, to join his brother Ferrus Manus in the Retribution fleet, the Lion took a crack force of his own to the world of Diamat. Accompanied by Nemiel, they secured the forges, and in turn the monstrous siegecraft the Lion knew Horus had ordered constructed decades ago. As soon as he had heard news of Horus's rebellion, he knew in his heart that all roads would lead to Terra, that if he could deny Horus resources for that campaign, it would be over before it even begun. In meeting with the planetary governor and the lead biologist of the Mechanicum, the Lion sensed that something was being kept from the Dark Angels. The Lion asked Nemiel his opinion of the two men in private, giving a sense of shock to Nemiel. For the first time he glimpsed that perhaps the superhuman warrior, who he had served from Caliban to the stars, struggled to read people. Nemiel began to contemplate. Perhaps that was more of the role that the charismatic Luther had filled. It led to some questionable thoughts. Or did the Lion unite Caliban? Or did his diplomat Luther?
The answer is both. Lionel Johnson had the idea, Luther pushed the idea, into fruition with the rest of the populace of the planet. But still, this is Lionel Johnson's plan. So it's both.
How much did he owe to his father figure? The rebellion of Horus had called into question the loyalty of many. Many of the hundreds of thousands of worlds brought into compliance were unwilling. The might of the Emperor's armies forcing their hand. Many felt even a sense of loyalty to Horus, the face of the Great Crusade, the one who had brought them into the light of the Imperium, the man on the front lines, compared to the ever-distant Emperor, hiding away upon Terra, something the Lion was right to question, as the forces of the Mechanicum on Diamat turned upon the Dark Angels. They were ambushed, and many of the Lion's little brothers, his sons, died with knives in their back. A quiet fury burned within the Lion, but the Dark Angels managed to fend off the Mechanicum's forces, and prepared to face against the Sons of Horus that had come back into the system to secure the siege engines. Fortifying the great forges, the Lion and the Angels met their enemy head-on. Men who had once been their friends, their brothers, they now had to hack down in an Astartes versus Astartes conflict. The Dark Angels were fighting their equal, but were outnumbered. They were almost overrun many times, but the Lion launched himself from conflict to conflict, a blazing demigod with his double-handed sword, cleaving apart the Sons of Horus and saving his sons who were on the brink. Each day they survived denied the enemy, until the Dark Angels even managed to partially activate the siege engines, obliterating the enemy's encampment and ending the siege. It would be in the wake of this conflict that the fleets of Perturabo, Primarch of the 4th Legion, found his way in the journey towards the Isfahan system. The Lion met his brother and began to converse, speaking of how Horus had clearly been the wrong pick for War Master. The Lion offered Perturabo the siege engines, to in turn be used against Horus.
You did what?
And to secure Perturabo's support in the role of the new War Master. Whilst in many ways the Lion felt this act of negotiation was beneath him, he knew that he was the best for the role of War Master.
I guess he didn't know that Perturabo has already chosen his side, and it's not the side of the Emperor. I guess he didn't know that. And because he doesn't really have a connection with his brothers, he can't really tell, those that have betrayed the Emperor and those who are with the Emperor. Yikes. And Perturabo is also just standing there. He's just listening to everything. He's just going, okay.
It had been his duty now to secure that position for the good of the Imperium, so he compromised in order to achieve that goal, something he would come to regret. In the wake of Diamat, the Lion regrouped with his legion, but quickly after warp storms began to ravage the galaxy, making travel across the warp incredibly difficult and dangerous. The Lion's line to information too was cut off. Something was becoming clear, that the nature of this war was different. It was as if the warp itself answered to the will of Horus. Conflicting reports began to arrive in constantly, adding to Johnson's distrustful nature, as he had no means to verify the truth. No way to decide which legion had chosen to be loyal and which had betrayed the Emperor, or which had chosen to take no sides. From what he could find, and from what he could verify, the Night Lord's Legion, the 8th, and Conrad Kurz had begun attacking Imperial worlds throughout the Thramas sector. The Lion ordered the Dark Angel's fleet towards them, to confront the 8th Legion, beginning the Thramas Crusade.
Okay. What for? The galaxy burns.
My brother,
Hissed Conrad Kurz, Lord of the 8th Legion. His was a viper's smile, just as predatory, just as brazen in its hunger.
I have missed you.
The Lion hesitated.
Really?
He raised his hands to his collar, unlocking the helm seals hidden there, and pulled the helmet free. An expression of naked surprise marked his features, yet his face was still an angel's countenance, not the beatific, handsome lies of ancient religious myth, but rather the truth of Terran artistry, a face that could have been shaped from tanned marble, emerald eyes with soulful depths, contrasted by a mouth that would forever struggle to show emotion. To Corswain's eyes, Kurz was pathetic, ghoulish in comparison, a wretched husk facing a Night Lord, claws against a prince's sword.
Kurz?
The Lion asked, his resonant voice softened by disbelief.
What has happened to you?
The Night Lord ignored the question, speaking with insincerity rich enough to make Corswain's teeth ache.
Thank you for coming. How it warms my heart to see you.
It does.
Lion drew his blade in a slow, clean movement. He neither brought it on guard, nor threatened the other Primarch. Instead, he clutched it in both black gauntlets, the crosspiece hilt before his face as he stared at Kurz above the Quillians.
I will ask you this once, and once only. Why did you betray our father?
I would ask you something in return, brother.
Kurz answered with a grin, his filed teeth on display, The clawed Primarch's eyes were an unhealthy bright, rich with a secret sickness.
Why did you not?
The lion lowered his blade to end the salute, knightly respects now paid.
Our father has charged me to take your head back to Terra.
Our father said nothing, for he hides within his dungeons, collecting the secrets of the universe and sharing them with no one. Lorgar and Magnus have seen everything our father sought to hide, so do not carry a precious little lie as your shield, Lion. You are Dawn's hound, running here to the Eastern Fringe because he ordered you.
Kurz licked his filed teeth.
Come, brother. Let us at least do one another the service of being honest. I know Dawn.
Here, the Night Lord gave his cadaverous smile again.
He sent you to do that which he feared to try himself.
I did not come to duel with words, Conrad. I came to end this crusade.
The Night Lord shook his head, his pallid face grey in the weak moonlight. His lips were only the colour of his visage, and even they were a bloodless blue.
Speak with me, brother. Listen. Reply in kind, and then decide if we must continue this war.
You will not sway me with your traitor's tongue.
Kurz nodded, utterly unsurprised. His vile facade cracked for a moment, revealing the warrior he'd once been, perhaps never pure, never free of torment, but capable of emotion beyond the condescending bitterness. The strained lines of pain faded from his brow, and the serpent's sneer left his lips. His voice was still raw, still ruined, but now carried an edge of sorrow.
I know. So what harm is there in speaking together this one last time?
The lion nodded.
Wait here.
He ordered his sons.
I will return soon.
The warriors fell silent as their lords returned, still distant, but close enough to be heard. The lion acknowledged his warriors with a curt nod. They responded with salutes, forming with a sign of the Aquila over their tabards. Kurz ignored his sons, still addressing his brother.
Horus himself charged me to speak those words to you.
He said that the Night Lord had seemed cadaverous before. Now he was practically exhumed. The Primarch's eyes, with what little white actually showed around the pupils, were inhumanely bloodshot. His gaunt features were dusted with a faint sheen of cold sweat, and a trickle of dark blood ran from his nose.
Man, Conrad, you nasty. What's going on, huh? You can't keep yourself looking presentable, at least.
He wiped it away in the back of his gauntlet.
Savage weapons, one and all, too dangerous to be wielded without cost. That is all history will see of us. Even you, Lion. Even you.
The lion shook his crowned head.
You underestimate our father's empire.
And you overestimate humanity. Look at us. See how we've dueled for the last 2 years out here in the void. A crusade between 2 legions and countless worlds that is still only just beginning. You have chased me for 2 years, across 100 battlefields. And why do we meet now? Because I allow it.
The lion conceded to that with a slight nod.
You hide, like vermin fleeing the coming of dawn.
Kurz shrugged, the barest rise of one shoulder guard.
You will never reach Terra in time to defend it, brother. The warp will not let you. The crusade will not let you. I will not let you. Do you think the archives of future generations will look upon you kindly for your absence?
Kurz paused in his diatribe.
He doesn't care, Kurz. He doesn't care. It's not part of his service or his duty to care what historians are going to think about him. That's not going to work.
Wiping away a fresh trickle of blood.
Or will the human descendants of this Imperium look to your legend and whisper of doubt?
Yet again, I say he does not care.
Will they ask why you were not present to defend the throne world, and speak likely lies that perhaps the lion was not as loyal and true as the mighty, perfect Rogel Dawn? Perhaps the lion and his dark angels waited in the deepest reaches of space, watching, listening, and deciding to join the fight only when an obvious victor emerged.
The Night Lord's eyes glinted again, with both amusement and sorrow.
That is your fate, lion. That is your future.
Forgive me, brother.
Kurz tilted his head.
For what?
Corswain was watching both Primarchs, yet still he never saw what happened. Such was the speed of the lion's movement. One moment the two brothers were speaking, the lion's features cast down in contemplation. Kurz's eyes fever bright as he promised an ignoble fate. The next, Kurz's features twisted into a taut rictus of pain, blood rushing between his clenched teeth. The lion held tight to the grip of his blade, buried to the hilt in his brother's stomach.
Whoa! How fast was that, man? That was crazy. Can he teleport? Really? I mean, it's not really easy to catch Conrad Curse off guard like that. It's not easy. You know, yes, he's a sickly Primarch, but, you know, he's no pushover. He is no pushover. Wow. Okay. Lionel Johnson. I'm sure you can teleport. I'm sure of it. I mean, it's either you can teleport or you move extremely fast.
More than a meter of shining, blood-stained steel thrust through the back of Kurz's armor.
For such a dishonorable blow,
The lion whispered into Kurz's pale, bleeding face.
I do not care. Who knows the truth now, tomorrow, or in 10,000 years? Loyalty is its own reward.
The lion pulled his sword free, and the Night Lord fell back. The Primarchs dueled, healers of their sons hurt.
We never sparred, did we?
The lion sounded almost bored, his words still carrying over the vox. Every few seconds they would see a new cut ripped open in Kurz's armor, or slashed across his face. He was fast enough to avoid death at the lion's hands, but not skillful enough to flawlessly defend against every attack.
I never cared for swords.
Kurz weaved under the carving blade, thrusting out with both claws. The lion tilted back, his balance executed to preternatural perfection. Kurz's claws shredded the ivory tabard, barely scratching the layered ceramite beneath.
There exists nothing of elegance inside you.
The lion turned the blade in his hand, parrying another dual claw strike with a single blade.
And nothing of loyalty. For a time I considered you my truest brother. No others grew untouched by civilization, only you and I.
Kurz licked his sharpened teeth.
I think you have the wrong brother to say you have a close, affinity to Lionel Johnson. I think you have the wrong brother. No. Nostromo is nothing like Caliban. It's nothing like Caliban. Nothing. No.
Eyes narrowed with effort.
You should be with us, brother. Even your own legion senses it. The First Legion strife is not unknown to the War Master.
There is no strife.
Their blades locked in that moment, Kurz catching the lion's sword in the net of his linked claws.
No.
The Night Lord spat the word as a curse.
No risk of the fair angels falling. When did you last walk upon the soil of Caliban, O proud one.
The lion smiled.
He has a point there. Conrad has a point.
For the first time Kurz had ever seen it. But the movement of his brother's lips still did nothing to warm his statuesque visage. Stone gave off more warmth than that smirk. He gave no answer beyond the smile. Kurz returned it, just as insincere, just as lifeless in that moment. He stopped fighting, ceased his measured dueling, and leapt at his brother with a howl. Where the warring Primarchs had presented the pinnacle of human possibility in warfare, now the lion's poise, skill and grace counted for nothing. They bawled as brothers, rolling across the ground, hands at each other's throats. When the tumbling ended, Kurz knelt atop the lion. Pinkish saliva sprayed from his pale lips as he bore down on his brother. Claws gasped to strangle, to inflict that most slow and intimate of murders. When Slayer and Slain stare into each other's eyes.
Die.
Kurz breathed. Desperation ruined his voice, rasping it from bleeding lips.
You should never have survived that tainted world you call home.
The lion's armored hands grasped his brother's throat in mirror response, but the Night Lord's advantage was crystal clear. Kurz shook the lion's neck in his fists, cracking his brother's head against the rocky ground again and again and again.
Die now, brother. History will be kinder to you this way.
Of all his brothers, the lion considered Conrad to be his truest, the one he had the most connection with, because, like Conrad, the lion grew up with no one. He grew up in the horrifying forests of Caliban, and Conrad grew up in the gringy underhive of Nostramo. Both of them existed like creatures, like animals, simply in survival states. So when he sees what he believes to be his truest brother, and his visage and how he is twisted, how dark blood trickles from his face and his features seem even more gaunt, it only goes to show how the lion is truly ignorant to the true threat behind Horus's actions, and how he doesn't understand why this rebellion has begun, because he himself cannot truly fathom why anyone would ever betray the Emperor. The two themselves, when they converse, it's obvious that they are clearly on the same line of thinking, and he doesn't grasp how his brothers could deviate from the plan, how they couldn't simply just do their duty, how they have to have ideas of their own. The war in the Thramas Crusade has been going on for years, but it's only now that the brothers truly meet, and the lion seeks to find a reason behind why Conrad is following Horus's orders, finding a sense of why this rebellion has occurred, because he believes in his heart it's still for petty reasons, that perhaps even Horus and some of the others could still be brought back into the fold. Conrad conveys to him in private how the Emperor is a tyrant, he's been hiding the truth about the warp from all of them, he's a liar, he secretly plans to turn himself into a god, to build an empire to worship him. And it's something the lion immediately gives no thought, no credence to that belief, because he can't reconcile that the Emperor would ever think along these lines, let alone him, who, being the firstborn Primarch, being the lion, he is the closest to the Emperor's thinking and sees no logic to this. He sees it as such an insult, such a desecration of the Emperor's will, and a rebellion of the Imperial truth, that he, in a moment, forgoes his honor and makes an unhonorable strike against his own brother. Two brothers roll around in the dirt as the galaxy burns. Conrad's words had pierced through the lion's heart, more so than he would ever admit. Speaking of trouble upon Caliban, something the lion had to dismiss instantly, not allowing himself to feel the doubt, not allowing himself to distrust Luther and Zahariel again. The brothers were locked within their desperate struggle. The lion, perhaps the greatest duelist amongst all of his brothers, but Kurz, through raw savagery and madness, managed to overpower his brother, slicing the lion's neck, almost throttling the life from him. But before the lion could be slain, he was saved by the intervention of Corswain, his loyal son. Each of the Primarchs is dragged back by their own sons, their bodies in ruin and cursing at each other as the drop pods like tears of fire began to fall to Sogwalsa.
So as they're being pulled away by their Astartes, they're busy swearing at each other. Wow.
Once again, the 8th and 1st Legion would try to rip each other apart. The Thramas Crusade raged on, though neither side could seem to pin down the other. Each attempt to battle, ambush or counter-offense was slowed down due to the tides of the warp, the very maelstrom that was shielding the Dark Angels from the light and information of terror. Healing from his wounds from curse, the Lion found himself in a state of paranoia. He does not know who he can trust. Horus has declared a rebellion, but yet he avoids the Lion in open combat, even trying to recruit him. He has heard whisperings of Istvan III and Istvan V massacres, but he's unsure of which side is telling the truth, or which legion is truly still loyal, traitor, or acting independently. He lacks answers, and the frustration gets to him. But most of all, he is frustrated with himself, for having read people and his brothers so wrong. The only thing he can trust is his legion, so the Dark Angels are on their own. It is as he and his flagship drift through the Thramas sector that the Lion finds himself being tailed, but in a manner that shows a level of precision beyond what navigators could achieve. The Lion prepared for an ambush for the vessel that had been chasing them, and upon seeing that it belonged to the 8th Legion, prepared for combat. But before the battle began, the ship began to ripple and folded in upon itself, consumed by the tides of the warp. A storm flared from the corpse of the ship as alarms rang out. They had been boarded, but by something not human or Xenos.
Demons.
Creatures of flame began to twist and manifest throughout the ship, attacking the Lion and the Dark Angels, who find to their horror that their weapons were proving almost ineffectual, until Brother Asmodeus, moments away from death, used his psychic powers. The powers of the warp were potent and eviscerated the creature, but in turn Asmodeus broke the Edict of Nicaea, the ban upon psychic powers declared by the Emperor shortly after Horus's crowning of War Master. Brother Redemptor Nemiel immediately ordered censure. As a Redemptor and executor of the Emperor's will within the Legion, he is shocked to only find a glint reflected in his Primarch's eye. Johnson in part agrees with the censure, but he saw the effectiveness of the psychic powers, and it became clear they will all die unless they unleash this power against their enemy. They must free the Psykers within the Legion, free them from the bounds of the Edict of Nicaea. Nemiel challenged the Lion, looking his Primarch in the eye, and tells him he won't follow his orders, even as his body shakes with the effort alone of defying his Primarch. Johnson became furious, to be defied by one of his own men, the ones he should always have trust in, and let alone Nemiel, who has followed him from the knightly orders of Caliban to now. It made his blood boil, and in the flash of an eye, he obliterated Nemiel's head in one punch.
Ow! Ow, Johnson! Your little brother! Your little brother! You killed your brother! You killed your little brother! Eh? What is this now? Lionel Johnson, what is this? I thought you wanted your Astartes to think for themselves, you know? Yes, they'll be loyal to you, but they'll still have that capacity to think for themselves, to do what they believe is right. But now here you are, you're killing your little brother. Hey, yeah, I understand wanting to break the Edict of Nicaea, as a solution to any form of demon incursion on your vessels. I get that. I understand it completely. But to the point where you kill your own Astartes, like, what's wrong with you? Just because I'm angry does not mean I'm going to take out a gun and kill someone. And someone who I know personally, someone who has my back, and I kill them. That doesn't compute, Johnson. You are an intelligent human being. I thought you could govern your own emotions, but here you are. You've exposed yourself. That's very disappointing. Very disappointing. Your little brother.
For a split second, the lion felt a sense of satisfaction. He removed an obstacle, but immediately his face dropped as he realizes what he has done. From what has usually been one of his greatest strengths, to act quickly and decisively, it is now shown to be a weakness, as in his anger and years of building paranoia, he has let himself slip for but a moment and killed one of his own sons. The dark angels around him are shocked, but again Johnson doesn't even allow himself a moment of grief, a moment to reflect as they are under attack and need to act now. The librarians are given permission to break the Edict of Nicaea, and finally use their powers to purge the strange creatures from the ship. The ones in their own rationality they believe to be Nephilim, creatures the lion had once seen in the forests of Caliban. After a furious battle, and the Nephilim corpses all piled up and melting away from the material universe, something emerged from a swirling maelstrom of all of the corpses. It looked like a giant, a nightmarish bird, at least 4 meters tall. It stood upright like a man, but its thin, twisted body was supported on legs of those like a hawk or eagle.
It must be a demon coming from the side of Zinch, maybe. Yeah.
It held a staff made of solidified flame, ever-changing in colour, a pair of wings, incandescent feathers trailing from the ground. It had 2 heads on a long scaled neck, one like some grotesque vulture, the other serpentine, both crested with long multicoloured feathers that dripped red and blue droplets of fire. To even gaze upon it, it made all of the Dark Angels' head ache, their vision blur, their mind struggling to reconcile the thing they saw before them. From a twisted beak it began to speak to the lion. You do not desire power, that much is plain. Your ambition is woefully stunted for one of your abilities. You are happy to let your brothers dwell in the light of your father's adoration. You even sacrifice your own to stay true to the memory of what once was. I can give you freedom. Its slippery promises began to sicken the lion, but then he heard that word, chaos. Something more than a concept, something beginning to solidify in his mind, as the nature of this war was becoming clear. The creature looked into his soul and saw that there was nothing he could offer him, for loyalty was its own reward. The lion was incorruptible. Together the lion and Corswain destroyed the creature they believed to be a Nephilim, the one called Kairos Fateweaver, banishing it away as it melted from the material universe. In the wake of their victory they continued upon their path, finding the planet of prodigious Ultima. Upon its surface, contingents from the Iron Hands and Death Guard battled, only halted as the words from the Vox were blared out. The world of Perdita's Ultima is under the protection of Lion L. Johnson, of the 1st Legion, bringing a halt to both sides. The Lion called a parley, meeting with Captain Typhon of the Death Guard, and Captain Medora of the Iron Hands at the Mechanicum factory that the 2 forces were fighting over. The Lion trusted neither of them. The somewhat rogue intentions of Typhon, who clearly defied his Primarch, and Medora, who perhaps simply wished to claim whatever was inside the fortress factory for his own revenge for the Isfahan massacres. Within its chambers, the lion strode alone, seeing a boy, aged perhaps no more than 7 or 8 Terran years. He lay immobile on his side, eyes unblinking, as stiff as a corpse.
Is he not a servitor?
The lion could hear the boy's heart beating, ever so slowly, and could smell sweat and urine on the air. A pipe extended from the boy's back, and another from the base of his skull, joining him with the mechanical array surrounding the warp engine. As soon as the lion's eyes fell upon the boy, it sat up, moving jerkily like a badly controlled marionette. From the servitor boy's lips, it uttered the words, "I am T'Challa." The marionette was simply a conversive tool for the enormous engine housed within the facility. The lion sensed immediately this device was dangerous.
It's an abomination. You must destroy it.
Wondering if he should destroy it. But
What do you mean wondering? You must.
T'Challa told him he could not be destroyed, not in the material sense. T'Challa showed the lion what he was capable of, and transported itself and the Primarch onto his flagship. The lion now truly began to see what he believed the creature to be: a sentient warp drive device, a weapon that Typhon and Medora had both sought to claim for their own ends.
A sentient warp drive device. Is this technology from the Golden Age? Yes, the Golden Age of technology. Must be.
Perhaps many of his brothers would have destroyed it. But such as with the library of the Knights of Lupus, the lion saw the potential in weapons that strayed into the grey of morality.
Yeah, but this thing is sentient. It's alive. I don't know. I'd rather be safe than sorry. And you know that artificial intelligence can be influenced or corrupted by chaos. Or maybe he doesn't know that at this very moment. But yeah, I don't know. I'd rather be safe than sorry. I'd just destroy this thing.
Johnson claimed the T'Challa engine for himself, but in a way never fully trusting it, as their conversations always unnerved him. The intention of the sentience behind the puppeted boy was unknown to him, but T'Challa was a tool that could pierce the ruin storms. One that could end this rebellion. With the T'Challa engine, the lion returned to his fleet within the Thramas sector.
Is this T'Challa engine still in existence in the 41st millennium? I'm wondering about that now. Is it still being used by the Imperium of Man, or has it been destroyed, a long time ago? I'm just wondering.
Finally ready to end the bitter conflict between the 1st and 8th Legion, Kurz had slain many of his sons and sapped his legion's strength, with the intention of weakening him enough to not be able to challenge the enemies of the Emperor. The lion and his fleet ambushed the Night Lords, catching them completely off guard. Once again the brothers dueled, with the lion bloodying Conrad and beating him to a pulp, not allowing himself to be overpowered this time. Avenging the deaths of his little brothers, the 8th Legion fleet was scattered, and the deranged creature that was Conrad Kurz was captured, alongside much of the 8th Legion's leadership. But in the wake of this victory, the Night Haunter escaped to the bowels of the Lion's flagship. Once again the Lion became the hunter, just as he had upon Caliban. But for weeks the tracking skills of the Lion were matched by the elusiveness of the mad Night Haunter. The threat of the 8th and of Conrad was now minimal, so the Lion had to shift his focus. Even over the years of the Thramas Crusade, the Lion had heard the rumours of a pocket empire within the realm of Ultramar, a place with a guiding light within the warp. a bastion for the surviving legions to gather, all under the protection of his brother, Primarch of the 13th, Rebute Guilliman. The Lion made his choice. Guilliman is a misguided fool at best, and a traitorous dog at worst.
Misguided fool? No, no, no. Lionel Johnson, no. He is no fool. He is the best. He is one of the best Primarchs the Imperium of Man has ever had a pleasure of having. One of the best.
There will be no new Emperor. Only a lifetime of war. My brothers will bleed each other dry, contesting for eternity until there can be no victor. No, not even him. There is only the Emperor. None is worthy of inheriting that mantle. I will ensure the legionary Astartes destroy themselves before another matches their power upon Terra. Faced with the prospect of mutual annihilation, my brothers may come to terms. Horus will be forced to acknowledge the Emperor again, and Guilliman and the others will not usurp their true master. The Lion trusts none except his own. All he sees are two brothers in the ashes of rebellion, trying to replace his father. They will either be brought back into the fold or destroyed. Towards Ultramar and Macragge, the Lion storms his Dark Angels forward, ready to confront either a fool or a traitor, ready to confront Guilliman.
Of all the Primarchs, save perhaps Mortorian, Lionel Johnson stands apart. Partially, this is due to his taciturn nature. A brooding silence hangs over him at all times. Yet, there is something more, something buried beneath his noble exterior. Perhaps this is a result of his upbringing, growing to maturity alone in the monster-ridden forests of Caliban. Even at a council of war, the Lion moves like an apex predator. He is always watching, always planning, always hunting. He unnerves even his brothers.
He is the eldest. Alright guys, that is it with the greatest Primarch in 40k, entire character history, voice acted, lore, made on the Amber King YouTube channel, voiced by Sean Michael Morneau. Yes, Lionel L. Johnson, the Lion. Yeah, I like Johnson here and there. I do like him actually. I like how he talks to his men. I like how he tells them to do their best, to be their best, to use whatever advantage is, available on the battlefield. And yes, sometimes you attain victory through chances or through luck, but it's yours. Claim it, own it. And how he also tries to lead his homeworld into a different path, one that is not constrained by traditions and culture, to look forward into a different future, and one that is not tied with the the memories of the past. And he tried to do that, but his people are very rigid in their culture and in their beliefs. And yes, he felt like he was alone on this planet, in more ways than one, not just because he's physically more powerful or he's intelligent or his capabilities physically or mentally are far superior, but also because of their social politics on the planet. He feels like he's alone. He feels like no one can understand him when he talks about these things, about making Caliban, in a different way, making it into a paradise for his people, and then one day going to the stars. These are things that his society doesn't seem to be yearning for or dreaming about like he does. So in more ways than one, he felt alone on his homeworld. Even after completing ruling over his planet and destroying the threats that plagued his people, he still felt alone. He still felt as if there's so much more that he could have done, but he just lacked the understanding or the resources, or his own people were not really understanding his viewpoint and what he wanted to do. So yeah, he was trapped on his homeworld. He loved his people, but he also felt trapped. Luther, his adoptive father or brother, or I don't know what type of relationship this is, master and apprentice, I don't understand. I still don't really understand how is it that Luther fell out of favor with Johnson, really. Was it out of jealousy, or is it something else? I'm not entirely sure what. But, yes, I get the point where Luther did not, inform his Primarch about a potential hit on him, with that human empire using nuclear weapons to try and destroy Johnson's vessel. But the motive behind it, I'm still not entirely sure what Luther's, side of things is in this entire situation. I'm not entirely sure what it is. And also how Zarathael, yeah, his other friend, I don't know how he is also clumped up into this situation with Luther, you know. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure, but he also fell out of favor with Lionel L. Johnson, so I'm not entirely sure what happened with his other friend, and how he dealt with the Lupus Order, and how he made sure that the information or the libraries that the Lupus Order had were going to be used for his people, and how in that same sort of thought process he's been applying it with his legion in later on in the future, how a very powerful entity that is able to teleport from one point to the next, this what is like an artificial warp drive construct, how he's decided that he wants to keep this thing alive, he wants to use it for his own benefit. It echoes to his decision with the Lupus Order and their libraries, wanting to keep that information and use it for the benefit of his people. It's the same way here with this sentient warp drive construct. Yeah. It's a bit dangerous. It's a bit of a gamble. Like I've said before, I don't really trust this thing. But, Johnson believes that it could be beneficial for his endeavors to, try and stop this rebellion against the Imperium of Man. So, yeah. And how Johnson has a relationship with his brothers, brother Primarchs, is also a bit strained, a bit distant, a bit awkward and weird. How he's more like the Emperor in how he sees things and how he displays his emotions, more so than any other Primarch, or and how during the Horus Heresy he didn't really know who to trust. He didn't understand how to trust anyone, not even his own legion. The cracks are starting to show, where he doesn't really know who to honestly trust anymore. One of his own sons even defied him, especially with the situation with the Edict of Nicaea, and how one of his sons was vehemently against the Primarch allowing the Psychers or the Librarians to continue to use their powers, and he was against it. And Lionel Johnson did not waste time. He was angry, he fell into his rage, and he killed his little brother. Instead of arresting him, instead of shouting him down, he just smashed his head in and killed him. So yeah, the cracks are already starting to show in terms of his trust for his little brothers. He is already having a strained relationship with his Primarch brothers, but now it's also filtering down to his legion. And really, his relationship with them is very different compared to other Primarchs, I think. Yes, he feels far more at home with his legion compared to other, compared to his relationship with his brothers or with, any of the other legions. But that sort of relationship that he has with them is now becoming toxic, if I can say that, because he only trusts his legion, he only believes in his legion. It's now becoming this crutch that he can't seem to get away from, where he had the opportunity to have connections with his brothers and understand them a bit more better. he decides to reclude himself from them and just focus mainly on his legion. And when his legion is now also showing signs of them, thinking for themselves or doing things a bit differently from the Primarch, he doesn't know how to respond to that. His first port of call is violence, to quell this little rebellion before it gets out of hand. Instead of trying to understand his sons or their viewpoints, he immediately turns to violence, and he killed one of them already. So yeah. But if there is one thing that I really do admire about him yet again, is his loyalty to the Emperor, his service to the Emperor, and the fact that he's not going to be coerced, or he's not going to fall into the trap of wanting to prove himself to other people or to the Emperor. He's not going to seek validation in any sort of way. Service and duty is its own reward for him, and he wears that like a pride, like armor that protects him. And unlike the other Primarchs, where they are weak to their emotions, where they are weak to their desires and ambitions, Lionel Johnson has none of that. With him, it's just simple duty to the cause, duty to the Emperor, and nothing else beyond that. And I really do respect that part of him as well. But yes, he has his issues, but he's a good man. He's a good man. And yeah, I guess we'll just have to continue on with the second part of Lionel Johnson next week. Part 2 of this video, and let's see what happens with Lionel Johnson and Robute Gilliman. And yet again, you see where his trust issues with his Primarch brothers is now coming to the fore, where he doesn't understand Robute Gilliman, and therefore he's already jumping to conclusions where he thinks his brother is trying to usurp the throne, trying to create his own enclave, his own pocket empire that is going to be at odds with the Imperium of Men, when in actual fact it's not like that. But because he doesn't really know Robute Gilliman that way, he wouldn't necessarily know why Robute would, take this path. So yeah, we're going to hear from these two as they talk about this, Imperium Secundus, I think that's what it's called, and how Lionel Johnson finally understands his brother, and also Sanguinius is going to be here, part of this new, well, not new, but separate empire that's being formed by Robute Gilliman. He's also going to be a part of it. So yeah, can't wait to hear about that, with these three Primarchs. And Conrad Kurz, he really knows how to, just get under the armor, the armor of any Primarch. He just knows where to just scratch or to unscrew a little screw here or there, just to make them go mad. He really knows how to do it, and he did it with Lionel Johnson. Yes, in the beginning it seemed as if Lionel Johnson's mental state was sound. He was calm. He had a control over the situation, but just slowly but surely, Conrad Kurz was able just to find that sweet spot to make Lionel Johnson explode. and that's what he did, through the discussions. So yeah, it was quite interesting to also hear from Conrad Kurz and what he thinks and how he thinks on these types of situations. But yeah, guys, that's it. Remember, if you want to check out the original video as well as the Amber King's YouTube channel. The links are going to be in the description below. If you like my reaction, please give me a like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Click on the notification bell if you want to be up to date with my latest videos. And I'll see you guys hopefully next week with part 2 of Lion L. Johnson the Lion. Alright, good night.